My name is Kim Waring, and I have a little story to share with you. First, I guess to let you know who I am. I'm a mom. I have 7 kids. I stay at home with them, and we have a blast. And this is actually a story of one of them. This is a story about how on August 14th, 2016, my son, my 2-year-old son, did not die. To kind of paint the story for you about how this all started, I was actually 39 weeks pregnant, very, very pregnant with my 7th, my last one. And we had been staying at my parents' house for the last 3 weeks. My parents had been serving a mission, and they were coming home, and we were expecting them at any point in time that day. And so we had this brilliant idea that we were going to have everybody go out and swim in the pool and get everybody really tired out, and then everyone was going to go and take a nap. And when everyone was sleeping, my husband and I were going to go and we were going to clean the house and get it all ready for Grandma and Grandpa, who were coming that evening. And we had this beautiful morning. My mother-in-law was there, my husband was there, we were tending the kids, and it was just a lovely, beautiful morning when we were just swimming in Grandma and Grandpa's pool. We decided it was time for lunch, and so we started getting all the food, and we were making dinner, or making lunch there just right on the table, and we sat down to say prayer. We said prayer over lunch, and we looked up at the pool. Now, during all of the lunch hubbub, I didn't realize it, but my 2-year-old had his life jacket taken off. And so he got right back into the pool, and I had no idea that his life jacket wasn't on, and he drowned. And I remember looking up, and my 3-year-old son was pulling him in, and I at first thought that can't really be what it looks like, right? Because it didn't really look human. It didn't look like an actual person. He was pulling in this gray mass, and all of a sudden I realized that was my little 2-year-old precious boy. He had fully drowned. His heart had stopped, and he was gone. And we pulled him out, and I had some training, so I grabbed him and started giving him CPR, and immediately all of that training started coming back to me, and all of the things that I had been taught came back, and I was able to give him CPR. My husband got 911 on the phone, and at about 8 minutes on the phone, so we went back and looked at how long this phone call was, and it was about 8 minutes long. The first fireman had gotten there, but by that point, our 2-year-old little boy had already started breathing. He was breathing on his own. And so we got him into the ambulance, and I remember taking off. I was still in my swimming suit. I was very pregnant. At the time, I remember yelling to my husband, "Make sure you bring clothes." And I went off into the ambulance with my little boy. And we got there, and he was doing actually pretty well. We couldn't wake him because he was just so tired, but he was breathing and doing everything kind of on his own okay. They took a chest x-ray, he looked clean, but they were very worried about him. They didn't know what state he was in, and so they decided it was important enough to fly him down to the Children's Hospital. And I was kind of shocked, and oh my goodness, was this really happening? And then they said, and you probably can't go because you're so big and pregnant that we can't get the seatbelt around you. And so there I was. I watched. We buckled him into the bed, and they rolled him off into the helicopter. And I watched my 2-year-old son go and get flown down to the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, and I was devastated that I couldn't be in there with him. It took us about 2.5 hours of driving through traffic and everything to get down to him. And by the time we got there, the nurses and everyone said that he was actually doing quite well. His lungs were working very well because he was screaming bloody murder for Mom and Dad. And we get in there, and he was sleeping peacefully with this wonderful nurse who had rocked him to sleep. And it was an incredible miracle. I can't even express to you what a divine gift that was for me at that point in time. I was very pregnant. Like I said, I ended up having contractions that day. I thought for sure I was going to have my next baby there, but I didn't. She held off for the next week, and I ended up having her the next week. And this was just this unbelievable point in time in my life, and I realized, as I had some time to think about it that week, how much preparation had gone into that miracle. You see, that miracle wasn't just something that happened that day by chance. I had been prepared for years to be able to be ready for that moment. 7 years earlier, I was returning back to school, having just gotten married, and I had my first son, who was 18 months old, and we were trying to figure out, what could I finish? I had 22 months that we were expecting to be in Utah at BYU, and I had to finish my degree, and I had 22 months. So we were digging through all of the different majors, trying to figure out what I could possibly finish in 22 months with the past credits that I had earned and everything. And I landed on this one that looked really fun, and it was recreation management and youth leadership. And I looked at all the requirements, and it looked like it was a blast. Part of it, we ended up going down to southern Utah, and we were camping under the stars for 4 weeks. And then we came back that summer term, and we had a wilderness first responder course. And this is basically like a souped up first aid course that you can use in wilderness settings when you don't have all of the nifty gadgets and gear that urban medicine has to kind of get you to a point where then you can take a patient to an urban medical facility. And that experience just opened up a whole new world for me. I was so excited to be able to serve and help people in that way. And I had no idea that this was something that I'd be good at the time, but I loved it. I was thrived in that little first aid class. So we graduated. I graduated with my bachelor's degree. My husband got his master's while we were there, and we took off for more schooling into Texas. And while we were there, I had the opportunity then to go back to school for my master's. And so my husband was going to school, and I was going to school, and we had, at that point, 2 little kids. And then a third came, actually. And then my husband got this email, and it was kind of this random, activities email from REI. And this activity was, come meet the search and rescue team. And we looked at this email and thought, oh, gee, that'd be kind of cool. And then this feeling kept coming back, and it really impressed upon my husband, no, Kim really needs to go to this meeting. Okay, so I went, and I went to this meeting, and I met these people who just really resonated with me. I clicked with the people who were there, and I was really excited about the search and rescue team, and it really kind of surprised me because I was going to school, he was going to school, we had 3 kids, it was really busy, we were very, very busy. But we were excited about the idea of me joining the search and rescue team, and so I did. And we had training every other Saturday, and there were emergency calls that would come up, and I would go searching, or just all these different things, that time commitment that was required of me. And we still felt it was really worth it. And as I kind of got on more and more involved with this search and rescue team, I got more into their higher medical training and emergency training that they provided for those of the team that were interested. And so I was able to get my healthcare level certification for CPR, and we talked a lot about emergency situations with families who were under great amounts of pressure, and how to deal with individuals who were panicking in such a situation as a drowning or someone who was missing, for instance, for the search and rescue team. So you see, all of these different components were adding up, and I got my first responder, and then I served on the search and rescue team, and I got this high-level CPR certification, and I had used all of these different certifications in different scenarios that had prepared me to then be ready for my 2-year-old son to be pulled out of the pool looking gray and dead. And I had it within myself to go ahead and practice CPR on my son. And all of the training that I had ever received, every single time it said, anytime a parent is there in this emergency type of situation, they're worthless. Just get them away from the patient as fast as possible because they're just going to get in the way. They're going to cause problems, they're going to be screaming and yelling and panicking. And all of those things came into my mind that day. And I remember thinking, I am not that parent. I am one that has training. I can do this. And that was this beautiful miracle for me, is that the Lord knew. He knew that I was going to need this, and he had helped me prepare all along the way. There was no doubt in my mind that this event was known to my Heavenly Father, and he knew that I would need preparation for that event. And, we can see this as we go to the scriptures. We can see it over and over again, that the Lord prepares his people for the callings that they're given. We see, Moses. Moses was laid up in a political situation so that he was a perfect person to approach the Pharaoh and tell him, let my people go. And you see it with Esther as well. Esther was one that also was put into a political situation to save and protect her people. We have David and Goliath too. David was trained. He had fought lions and wolves off to protect his flock. And again, it was to protect the people of the Lord. He was prepared. And even in modern days, we've heard from modern day prophets and apostles that their lives were prepared for the callings that they would be given. We hear from Elder Uchtdorf how he struggled with a lung disease that he didn't even know he had. But the Lord provided a way for him to overcome that through his bicycling job when he was young to deliver laundry. These things are known to the Lord, and he knows that we have things and struggles to overcome in this life, and he gives us the tools. He gives us the opportunities to overcome those things, to be prepared for the calling that will be given later. I want to impress upon you this idea that just because there's something hard in front of you, it doesn't mean that we should shy away from it. Sometimes these hard things, bicycling uphill with a whole load of laundry behind you, going to school full-time with 3 kids and serving on a search and rescue team, finding the time to do all of that. These struggles that come into our lives help us prepare for the things that are coming. I know that the Lord sustains us so that we can become who we need to be. So as we are in this time period right now where we are preparing to become who we are going to become 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we are becoming who the Lord needs us to be. We listened to Elder Eyring in this last conference in April 2020, and he talks about how the Lord is preparing his church for his second coming. Right now, how incredible is it that we get to be part of this? Elder Eyring talks about how the Lord is going to need his church, that all of the talents, all of the skills that the church has collectively as a whole, all of those things will be needed to further this work and to welcome the Savior in the second coming. So that's you, that's me, that's all of us around who are developing and working towards perfecting these skills and talents that the Lord has given us. So here we are. We have all of these different opportunities in front of us. And we have to determine which ones are going to be the ones that are going to strengthen us, to send us and launch us on our way. How can we know these things? Well, President Eyring talked about our focus on getting there. President Nelson has also talked about us listening to the Spirit. How do we hear him? How do we hear the Spirit to be able to launch us to where we need to go? This is where we need to be working right now. So how do we do that? How do we learn how to hear him? My husband had an impression, this strong feeling that I needed to go to this REI activity. He read an email and was aware enough of the Spirit in his life to recognize that we needed to go there. We needed to be part of that. Those little promptings, those seemingly small things that seem insignificant at the time, can be those launching points that send us on our way. So, we read our scriptures. We give ourselves opportunities to have spiritual experiences so that we can recognize the Spirit and the promptings in our lives. When was the last time you deliberately gave yourself an opportunity to feel the Spirit? And then write down what that feels like. What impressions come to you? Have you visited the temple, even just walked the grounds, and recognized the feeling? Have you read the scriptures and sat and listened to the Spirit? Those are the things that can give you the opportunities to recognize the Spirit in your life. Those are the things that we need to do and to be practicing so that we can be good at recognizing the Spirit in our lives. So this is my challenge for you, is that you practice listening to the Spirit. Practice giving yourself the chance to recognize what it is for you. It feels different for each of us. For me, it is a peaceful worm. For my husband, it might be something different. I know my children feel the Spirit in other ways too. And it is different for each of us. And so I challenge you to find what it is for you. Follow the president of the church. Follow the prophet. How do you hear him? I know that he leads us. I know that he prepares us for what we need to be doing in our life. And I'm so grateful that he cares about our lives, that he knows these details and is preparing us for what is coming. I want to bear witness to you today that these things are true. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ.